Okay, this is the demo for part 17, wrist block. If we look at our drawing here, our wrist block has 3 holes. 1 hole that goes through the back of the block, 2 holes that go through the top of the block. Also has this slot that comes through the side. The last thing that we'll be doing in this demo is that we'll fillet these corners here and here. To start the part, we're going to go to Autodesk Inventor, and here on our home screen, we'll click New. This part, like all the other parts in our hydraulic arm project, are in inches. Make sure you're in your English folder and that you're selecting standard inches.ipt. If you see this warning come up, as always, please click OK. Keep going. Okay. As this opens, let's go back and look at our drawing. The first thing we're going to be doing on this drawing is creating the main part of the block. And if we look at this drawing, it has a width of 1.75 inches, a height of 1.5, and then of course here, our thickness over here on the left is 0.75. In Inventor, we'll start with a new sketch. This part we're going to start on the top view, and in that top view we're going to create a rectangle. Using our dimension tool, we'll enter the distances from our drawing. We're going to select the bottom line, pull that dimension down, and enter 1.75 inches. We'll select the right hand line, pull that over, and enter 1.5 inches. Okay, we're going to zoom all, and that should finish our sketch for the block. Now we're going to extrude the depth that we see in the drawing of 0.75. Okay, zooming all, we can now see that we have our block created. If we go to our top view, here it is. Now we can move on to our holes. The first hole that we're going to put in is this single hole from the back of the block. A couple things we'll notice about this hole. It's actually here on the right hand view. Diameter 0.5, distance from the edge on the right is 0.75, distance from the bottom 0.375. Depth on this block is seen in the front view, and it's 0.625. We'll notice that the hole also has an angled drill point. Alright, let's see if we can turn all that information into a hole. We're going to go over here to this view on the back, and we're going to start our hole. We're going to click close to our goal, and then enter the diameter of our hole into this box. We're going to come over here and switch our termination to distance. That allows us to enter that distance from our drawing of 0.625. The last step is to enter our references. First reference is this right hand edge, and our distance there from the drawing is 0.75. Second reference, reference 2, is this bottom edge, and our distance there is 0.375. Double check that we have an angled drill point, and click OK. It completes the hole through the back of the block. Now we'll go here and we're going to go to the top of the block and create the 2 holes here that we see in the drawing. Looking at our drawing, those 2 holes both have a diameter of 0.25, and our reference distances are 0.375 from this bottom edge and 0.375 from this left edge. If we look at the hidden lines, we'll notice that both of these holes pass all the way through the block. Going back to our drawing, we'll start those holes. First hole here, diameter from the drawing is 0.25. Both of these holes pass all the way through, so we'll switch our termination to through all, and now we'll enter our references. Here, 0.375, and here, 0.375. Okay, we're going to use the apply button. That will allow us to create our second hole immediately. Diameter is the same. References for the top, 0.375, and on the left, 0.375. Alright, that should create both of our holes. We'll click OK. And we'll rotate to a home view and take a look at what we have so far. We have both holes through the top. Over here in the back we see this hole. Next step is to create the slot that passes through the block. We're going to rotate to the right view. We're going to start a new sketch. Now, looking at our drawing, first thing we're going to look for is the size of that slot. Right here we see this 0.375, and that's going to tell us the distance between these two lines here. The other thing we're looking for is the depth of that slot. We see that here at 0.75. I'm going to draw that slot as a rectangle, starting on this front edge, passing back here into the block. We'll add those dimensions. Depth from the drawing was 0.75. And then height, we're going to add that to this here, and that should be 0.375. Now the last thing we need to do is center this up. We know that it should be centered because if we look at our drawing, we don't see any information giving us the distance for between the slot and the bottom, or the slot and the top. We do notice that the lines, both the object lines and the hidden lines for the slot, appear to be centered on the center line of these holes, and so we make the assumption that it is centered. To center it, we're going to enter in a mathematical expression for our dimension. So we're going to pull that dimension line. I guess we'll stick it right here. The first thing we're going to do is the entire height of the block is 0.75 inches. Now we're going to put all of that inside a set of parentheses. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract out the height of the slot of 0.375. And that will give us the remainder of the block that's left behind. We're going to divide that by 2. Dividing it by 2 will identify the exact distance that's left down here. Okay, if we apply that, we notice down here that we have that distance. We can check that by creating a driven dimension here. We're going to get an error message because it's going to say it's going to over-constrain. Choose accept to create a driven dimension. Yes, we'd like to do that, accept. And what that does is it just labels the dimension. We can't change it, we can label it, and that'll verify we have equal distance top and bottom. We'll finish that sketch. Going to our home view, you can see where we've sketched, and now we need to create that extrusion. Checking our drawing, we notice that that extrusion in the front view and based on the hidden lines passes completely through the front of the block. So we're going to switch that to a cut and our extents to all. We'll complete our extrusion. The last step is to fillet these corners on the front. Looking at our drawing, we go up here. The radius for that fillet is 0.375, and we notice that all corners are filleted on that front. Coming back here, we'll select our fillet tool, enter our radius, 0.375, and select our corners. Okay, all our corners show that they're selected. We'll click OK. This, in a quick view, is our completed wrist block. At this point, if you'd like to, you can of course apply a color to your part, and then we'll save it. We're going to make this one blue. Over here, we'll go to File, and we're going to save this. When we save it, you want to make sure that you check where you are. I'm inside my named folder. Check for the network icon. I'm inside the inventor folder, and I'm inside the Hydra Arm folder. Okay, I have the right location. And we're going to call this Part 17 Wrist Block. Save. As always, click OK when you see this message. That completes the wrist block tutorial.